Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Well, in today's podcast, we're going to talk about the expression plain sailing. Plain sailing is when everything is going very well. That project, it was plain sailing. I just sailed through it. Or as a comparative, that project was really difficult. It certainly wasn't plain sailing. You can hear there that we can use it both in the positive and the negative. Plain sailing is a very common expression in English. We use it all of the time to talk about things which were easy and things which were difficult. As I've mentioned before, we have loads of idioms and expressions related to the sea and the ocean. That's because at one point in our history, it was our biggest industry. The other day, I gave you another expression, the whole 9 yards, talking about the sail, that piece of cloth which goes up on the boats, which the wind blows to make it move. So it's no surprise then that plain sailing is another one of our expressions. You know, when we're at school, it often isn't plain sailing. We're placed in a class of 20 or 30 people, many of whom we generally wouldn't associate with, and we're told to learn. The winner is celebrated, the one who gets all of his homework right, the man who's able to do everything perfectly. He's the one who's the center of the class. Then there's the others. We won't call them the losers, but they're the ones who aren't celebrated. This idea supposedly gives us character. It makes us study hard and it motivates us. At least that's what it's supposed to do. But when I was at school, I hated that. I didn't want to be competing against my classmates. I liked them too much. Why would I want to try to have dominion over them? So I was always very shy with this kind of thing, which people liked because it means they could push me out the way so that they could succeed. It seems that in human nature, this is very common. The strongest survive and the weakest don't. In these days of the working environment, the person with the biggest sales retention rate or the highest and best level of customer service wins the award. But yet we're still told, oh, you're all a team. There's no I in team and everything else. But it seems to me that, yes, actually, there is an I in team. And that's going to be the best performer. Well, I'm pleased to tell you that learning English isn't like that. If you do an English class on a one-to-one with a teacher, there's never going to be any judgment. There isn't going to be any voice which says you've succeeded or you've failed. There's only going to be an affirmation and a celebration of the fact that you're committed to English. A good teacher is going to be able to identify your strengths and your weaknesses. It's a little bit like holding up a mirror and asking you to take responsibility for what you see. For some people, it looks like learning English is indeed plain sailing, but for other people, it looks like it really isn't. And all of these things are in the back of our minds about achievement and success. Why is it that John, who works in our team, has a better level of English than I have? I heard my colleague on the phone the other day. Their English seemed perfect, and yet I'm struggling to get words together. Well, the good thing about learning English as an adult is we're not subjected to these humiliating moments where the winner wins and you become maybe third or fourth in the list. There's no real sense of fierce competition when you're learning English as an adult, unless, of course, you make it that way. There's a well-known expression which says, with your thoughts, you make the world. And that's certainly true about language learning. Some people try very hard and believe they can do it, and they're successful. And then there's others who try very hard but don't really believe they're able to achieve the goal, and they kind of fall by the wayside. And in falling, they're sometimes angry. Oh, it's the teacher's problem. Oh, it's my family's problem. Oh, if only I was able to spend 2 weeks in a native-speaking country. If only I could go away and have time to study. And the excuses are endless. And it seems to me that they like to blame everyone except taking responsibility themselves. To learn English successfully, there first has to be the belief, I can do this, and then you work to manifest it. That is always the secret. It's all about cause and effect. You believe you can do it, so of course the effect is that you do. But if you only believe in the effects and you try to manifest them without having some kind of principle to begin with, like, I can do this and I'm going to demonstrate it, then you're not going to get very far. It's not always plain sailing to learn English, but certainly with the right attitude, you can get to where you want to be. On a one-to-one with a teacher, it's much easier, but that doesn't negate the responsibility of community. From my experience, the most successful people are those who are not afraid to talk to native speakers. Scary though it is, they arrange language partners and they keep going until they find someone they're able to practice with regularly. Perhaps it's a little bit easier for me to find people to study with, because as a teacher, I can identify those people who are open and ready for language exchanges. Also, I can sense almost immediately if someone's very serious about learning or not. I know this because of their behaviors. It's quite easy to see what someone's looking for when you meet so many people who are learning. I do understand that learning English alone is very different from learning English in a class. Sometimes you feel like it lacks direction. Sometimes it feels like it's maybe going into places that you're not really comfortable with, because you'd rather be focused on getting that job, for example. There's a lot to think about with learning English, and to make it plain sailing takes a lot of effort. Well, those are just a few thoughts to think about today, but just in closing, I would say, if you are feeling like this today, that you're not getting very far with your English, maybe it isn't your English that has to change. Maybe it's about your belief of it. That's it from me. Let's talk again soon. See you. Bye.